Hola y bienvenidos a este video en el que vamos a hablar de las vacaciones en el pasado y en el futuro. Hello and welcome to this video in which we're going to talk about holidays in the past tense and in the future tense. If you're looking for a very easy introduction to the topic of holidays, it's the first thing you're doing to do with holidays in Spanish, I recommend first watching my other video which talks about what we normally do on holiday in the present tense. So watch that one first and then come back here. If you've seen that one before, then let's crack on. Primero vamos a repasar cómo hablar de las vacaciones en el presente, luego aprender cómo dar los mismos detalles pero sobre las vacaciones del pasado y del futuro, y por último aprender a formar frases más detalladas sobre las vacaciones del pasado y las vacaciones que vamos a tener en el futuro. First we need to revise that structure from the last video, looking at how to talk about where we normally go on holiday, because we're going to use exactly the same structure for the past and the future. It's the verb to go, which we looked at in the present tense, voy, vas, va, vamos, vais, van, the preposition a, meaning to, of course that phrase de vacaciones, on holiday, so instead of just I go to, voy a, we're adding in voy de vacaciones a, I go on holiday to, or on vacation to. Then we're going to include a place, and we looked at lots of different examples of places: Alemania, Germany, Grecia, Greece, Londres, London, Nueva York, New York. The preposition en and a mode of transport. And remember that preposition en can mean in, but when used with a mode of transportation it means by. So if I said voy a Francia en tren, I go to France by train. Talking about holidays, I might say something like normalmente voy a Perú en avión. Normally, I go to Peru by plane. Or I might say, mis abuelos van de vacaciones a Alemania en autocar. My grandparents go on holiday to Germany by coach. So to say where we went on holiday instead of where we go on holiday, and how we get there, we need to use that same structure, but instead of the verb to go, ir, in the present tense, voy, vas, va, vamos, vais, van, we need to put it into the preterite tense. Fui, fuiste, fue, fuimos, fuistes, fueron. And then the rest is going to be the same. The preposition a place, preposition en, and a mode of transport. How would I say, for example, I went on holiday to France by car? I went on holiday to France by car. So that would be fui de vacaciones a Francia en coche, or I could say en carro. What about we went on holiday to New York by plane? We went on holiday to New York by plane. Fuimos de vacaciones a Nueva York en avión. Now if you've never seen the verb ir, to go, in the past tense, in the preterite tense, then maybe make a note of this. I went, fui, you went, fuiste, he or she went, fue, can also mean it went, or singular they went. Fuimos, we went, fuistes, you plural went, fueron, they went. Now with this particular verb, in the past tense you get kind of 2 for 1, because actually ir, but also the verb ser, to be, in the preterite tense, looked like this. So that means fue can mean it went, but it can also mean it was, which is really useful for this topic, because I could say fui a Francia, fue divertido. I went to France, it was fun. Now we're going to do exactly the same, taking that structure which we took from the present to the past. This time we're going to put it into the near future tense. So we need the verb to go, and really, again, we're going to use this in the present tense, because the near future tense is formed with the present tense plus the infinitive. So we've got voy a, I'm going to, and then we need to say ir de vacaciones a, place, en, mode of transport. For example, voy a ir de vacaciones a Perú. I'm going to go on holiday to Peru. So take a moment to think how you'd say, we are going to go on holiday to Costa Rica. We are going to go, or we're going to go on holiday to Costa Rica. So you should be thinking, vamos a ir de vacaciones a Costa Rica. And in a nutshell, that's how we talk about holidays in Spanish. Okay, so it's all to do with using that formula, using that structure, and just changing the verb ir from the present tense to the past tense and then into the near future tense. Hopefully from the last video you can remember this phrase, durante mis vacaciones, during my holidays or during my vacation. Tomar el sol was to sunbathe, and that means I can use the infinitive with an opinion phrase like me gusta tomar el sol, I like to sunbathe. Or I could say I usually sunbathe suelo tomar el sol. For the future tense, I could say, el año que viene, next year, voy a tomar el sol. Next year, I'm going to sunbathe. In the present tense, I could just say, tomo el sol, taking off that AR and replacing it with an O for the I form of the present tense. Normalmente tomo el sol. Normally, I sunbathe. Or in the past tense, if I want to say last year, I could say tomé el sol. El año pasado tomé el sol. Now, if you don't know how verbs work, regular verbs in the preterite tense, I've got a video on that. Another holiday activity is pasear por la playa, to stroll along the beach, to kind of wander aimlessly, take a walk along the beach. And again, I could say, me gusta pasear por la playa, or suelo pasear por la playa. I usually stroll along the beach. Or if I'm talking about next year, el año que viene, voy a ir de vacaciones a Grecia con mi familia en avión y voy a pasear por la playa. So next year I'm going to go to Greece on holiday with my family by plane, and I'm going to stroll along the beach. So we can add these bits onto that structure that we looked at the beginning. Cuando estoy de vacaciones, normalmente paseo por la playa. When I'm on holiday, I normally stroll along the beach. Sin embargo, however, el año pasado fui a Noruega. Last year I went to Norway en avión by plane y paseé por la montaña, and I strolled through the mountains. So I said paseé, I strolled in the past tense. El año pasado paseé. And when you've got two vowels together in Spanish, you pronounce them both. Paseé, paseé. Nadar en el mar, to swim in the sea. Me gusta nadar en el mar. Suelo nadar en el mar. El año que viene, next year, voy a nadar en el mar. I'm going to swim in the sea. All of those structures are always going to use the infinitive. If I want to put this into the present tense, I swim in the sea. Remember, I need to take off the infinitive ending and add an O. Normalmente nado en el mar. I normally swim in the sea. And if I'm talking about a past holiday, I want to say I swam in the sea. I take off that AR and I'm going to add an E accent. Nadé en el mar, just like tomé el sol, paseé por la playa. El año pasado nadé en el mar. Last year, I swam in the sea. And I could put in the middle there, durante mis vacaciones. El año pasado, durante mis vacaciones, nadé en el mar. Now, so far we've just looked at AR verbs, and hopefully you've spotted that pattern that the AR comes off, and we add an O for the present tense, and then we add an E accent for the past tense. This one's an ER verb, comer, to eat. Comer en restaurantes, to eat in restaurants. So it's going to work a little bit differently. But for the infinitive constructions, opinion, me gusta, usually suelo, and the future, voy a, it's just going to stay the same. The present tense, normalmente como en restaurantes. I normally eat in restaurants. But for the past tense, to say I ate in restaurants, it's going to be comí en restaurantes. El año pasado comí en muchos restaurantes. Last year I ate in many restaurants. Now for a verb that's a little bit irregular. Jugar al, to play. Me gusta jugar al baloncesto. I like to play basketball. Suelo jugar al fútbol. I usually play football. El año que viene, durante mis vacaciones en España, voy a jugar al vóley playa. Next year, during my holidays in Spain, I'm going to play beach ball. Present tense. Normalmente, durante mis vacaciones, juego al ping pong. Normally, during my holidays, I play ping pong. Now notice that it gets this E, that's what makes it irregular. In the past, it has a different irregularity. I'd have to say, el año pasado jugué. Last year I played. And it gets that U just to keep the hard sound of the G, so that it sounds like jugar. Juego, jugué. Without the U, it'd be jugué, and that doesn't really sound like jugar. Visitar los monumentos, to visit the monuments. Visito los monumentos, and it's an AR verb, so hopefully you can guess what this is going to do now. I visited, visité los monumentos. Ir de compras. Here we've got that verb ir, to go, which we've seen so much of today. So I could say, me gusta ir de compras, suelo ir de compras, voy a ir de compras, and If I'm putting that into the present tense, it's going to have to change to voy, because ir is a super irregular verb. Normalmente voy de compras. So in the past tense, think about how we said I went on holiday. How do I say I went? It looks nothing like ir, looks nothing like voy. Fui de compras. And finally, sacar muchas fotos, to take lots of photos. Me gusta sacar muchas fotos, suelo sacar muchas fotos, voy a sacar muchas fotos, saco muchas fotos, and in the past tense, another small irregularity, saqué muchas fotos. Now the QU, the C changes to a QU to keep that hard k sound, because a C followed by an E would make it sase or sace. So when Spanish is a bit irregular, sometimes there's actually kind of method to the madness, there's a bit of logic there. It keeps consistent sound, even if it means inconsistent spelling. Sacar, saco, saqué. El año pasado, durante mis vacaciones en Italia, saqué muchas fotos. Last year, during my holidays in Italy, I took loads of photos. Now to practice talking about holidays in the future tense, I've put together this sentence builder, starting off with a few different phrases. El año que viene, next year, or we could say el verano que viene, next summer. Para mis próximas vacaciones, for my next holidays, for my next vacation, I'm going to go to country, and I'm going to activity, extra detail, and then a second activity. So have a think what it would mean if I said, el verano que viene, voy a ir a España, y voy a tomar el sol en la playa y nadar en la piscina. El verano que viene voy a ir a España y voy a tomar el sol en la playa y nadar en la piscina. So that would mean next year I'm going to go to Spain and I'm going to sunbathe on the beach and swim in the pool. Now, when you're ready, pause the video and try to write 5 sentences of your own in Spanish, and then see if you can translate them back into English without looking at the sentence builder. And now one final activity, just to make sure we've got an opportunity to practice everything we've learnt in this video. We now have a similar sentence builder, but for the past tense, starting off with el año pasado, last year, el verano pasado, last summer, hace 2 años, 2 years ago, and of course we could change that time frame to whatever we want. I could say hace una semana, 1 week ago. Hace 2 meses, 2 months ago. Fui a, I went to, or visité, I visited. And we could also say, instead of fui a, I could say fui de vacaciones a, I went on holiday to. Country and activity in the past tense, extra detail, and then another activity in the past tense. So once again, write 5 sentences of your own. Say them out loud if you can, try and practice the pronunciation, and then see if you can translate them from Spanish back into English without looking at the sentence builder. Pause the video, have a go at doing those 5 sentences and the translations, and then when you're ready you can end the video, because that's basically, in a nutshell, how we can talk about holidays in the past tense, in the present tense, and in the future tense. Just a quick reminder to hit that like button if you found this video useful, if you found it interesting. It's just a click of a button or a tap of the screen for you, but it really means a lot to me, and it helps me to know which videos people have found most useful as well. Also, if you have any comments, please do use the comment function below. You can say something that you learned, something that you found a bit difficult, and again, it will help me to plan future videos. And if you haven't already done so, please do hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of the future videos that I'll be posting. If you really don't want to miss out on any of them, you can also turn on notifications.